All right, we head back out to Houston where our Josina Anderson is standing by. Our senior NFL insider took this one in from start to finish and then some, Joe. Give us a sense of the emotion surrounding this game. So much to take in both on field, before the game, and after. What were some of your biggest notes?
Well, that was the whole thing with this game, just wondering what was going to happen with Deshaun in his big debut back to a regular season game for the first time in 700 days. And I would say off jump, the first thing that stood out to me was just the amount of time it took for fans to just trickle in, noticeably empty from the beginning. And then at around 10:15 local, they announced that the fans were allowed to come in, and they slowly began to, trickle in. But nothing really stood out, as a lot of the reporters were kind of looking for the ambiance of what it would be. At times it seemed like the anxiousness kind of was more at field level with the media relative to trying to capture the moment. And then just behind me over the left shoulder here is where the Browns come out on the field, and all of us gathered over there to catch his official run out on the field. And there were a lot of people anxiously waiting to capture that on their cell phones. And you saw Deshaun Watson come out and, kind of lift his arms up and kind of embrace the moment. But what also stood out about that is he made a point to make sure that he shook the hand of Houston Texans owner Cal McNair. We also watched what appeared to be Hannah McNair turning her back at that time. So that's when you kind of started to notice what the reaction would be to a certain extent. There were a few signs, trickling around the stadium. One woman had up something that said she would rather be 1-9-1 than have Watson at quarterback. So there weren't many of that. There were a few that just kind of trickled around. And obviously during the game, you did note that fans were booing every time he took a snap. And there were also a mixture of people who were cheering because there were a number of Browns fans in orange and brown jerseys in the arena as well. But as Deshaun Watson talked about it after the game, he basically said that that's what he expected. He obviously knows that he had some rust. A number of the passes that he had today were going into the ground, and also expressed gratitude and thanks that the defense and the special teams were also helpful in helping to, get some sort of points on the board so that they were able to walk away with the W. Because to be quite frank, it was a struggle today for the offense, but they do come away with the victory.
Yeah, plenty to unpack in the before and after here in this day for Watson and all of those in Houston. But the during, 12 of 22 for $131, no touchdowns and an interception. Hadn't played football in 700 days, and it surely looked like that was the fact. He was given the largest guaranteed contract in NFL history to win football games and to get this offense producing. You obviously can't expect that to happen right out of the gates, but what did you make of Deshaun's performance here between the whistles?
Well, I think it was to be expected. I mean, at least from my perspective, I think relative to some of the things that were said from Brown sources and just people in his camp, as far as what they were anticipating today. I think a lot of that has to do with what we all know of Deshaun as a, player who obviously was here in Houston for 4 years and what we've seen of him in the past. But when I think back to looking at the Browns, practice clips from this week, I felt like I did notice that, some of the balls were off target and the guys were getting used to the pace of the ball, the cadence of how he calls things at practice. So for me, it was not a surprise. Maybe, for some of the people around him today. But ultimately, it's just one game. Part of the reason why I think that the Browns chose to not only take their time in allowing him to have his press conference this week, it was supposed to be Wednesday and ended up being Thursday, and why Deshaun took the podium saying that he wanted to, focus on football first, and that was the theme coming from the Browns organization, really, is because they, as an organization, are trying to have this be the first of the rest of the Deshaun era and trying to start over. But as we can see from the reaction on social media and from some of the fans in the stands today, it will take some time to get to that point. Obviously, Tony Busby echoed that before the game as far as wanting for some people to make sure that the people who were affected, at least from a plaintiff standpoint, were also not to be forgotten. But, we move on, they get the W, and we will see how they handle it from here. As of right now, tough sledding in the AFC North as, the Steelers and the Ravens were able to win in the earlier part of the games today. But, the Browns will try to truck on, and so will Deshaun Watson.
That's our Josina Anderson, always taking us inside the biggest moments the game has to offer. Thank you, Joe. All right, here's a look at Watson's day, his first game in 700 days. His passer rating, worst in his career. Passing yards, third worst at 131. Completion percentage, 55%, the fifth worst such performance in Watson's career as he looks to get on the same page with his new cast of characters in Cleveland.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.